You are crouched beside a small fire in a rock shelter, somewhere in the high desert of what will one day be called Utah. It is night. Above you, smoke curls toward a blackened ceiling, the only light beyond the coals. You cannot hear anything beyond the shelter walls, no rival camp, no warning call, nothing. Your hands hold a hollowed stone, packed with dried leaf. You touch it to the fire. You breathe in. This single act, repeated by a single person, in a single place, is about to start something that will outlive every person who ever lived to see it begin. You have no idea what you are starting. You have no idea it will still be happening 12,000 years from now. So who lit the first one and why? The threat. The problem. In 2021, archaeologists working at the Wishbone site in Utah's Great Salt Lake Desert uncovered something unprecedented. 4 small stone pipes, blackened with use, dated to roughly 12,300 years ago. Residue analysis confirmed nicotine inside the charred bowls, the oldest direct evidence of human tobacco use ever found, by a margin of nearly 9,000 years over the next oldest known example. This was not a side effect of cooking fires. This was deliberate. The pipes were found alongside the bones of waterfowl and small game, meaning these were everyday hunting camps, not ceremonial sites. The plant itself, wild. Tobacco contains nicotine concentrations that can reach 2 to 8% of dry leaf weight, among the highest of any plant species on Earth, roughly comparable to concentrations in modern cultivated tobacco. In raw form, ingested rather than smoked, it is genuinely toxic, capable of inducing vomiting, seizures, even death at high enough doses. Early users were handling a plant that could kill them, refined down to a method that wouldn't. The question was never whether tobacco was dangerous. It clearly was. The question was how a society 12 millennia ago figured out the one method, combustion, inhalation, small controlled doses that let them use it constantly without it using them. Why humans were weak. Humans have no biological tolerance for nicotine built in. Unlike some insects that evolved alongside nicotine-producing plants and developed resistance to it, human bodies treat nicotine as a straightforward neurotoxin, and in concentrated form, it still is one. There was no trial and error margin for error built into human physiology. Eating the wrong dose of raw tobacco leaf can be fatal to an adult, and far less is needed to kill a child. Compare that to something like a bear, which can eat dozens of toxic or bitter plants that would devastate a human digestive system, relying on sheer gut capacity and tolerance humans never had. Humans also had no inherited knowledge to draw on. Every other survival skill in this channel's catalog, fire, tracking, tool use, had deep evolutionary or generational scaffolding behind it. Tobacco use had none of that. It had to be discovered from nothing by someone willing to risk poisoning themselves to find out what a plant could do. So how did a deadly plant become a daily ritual instead of a fatal mistake? The answer isn't biology, it's technique. Weapon, adaptation 1. The first adaptation wasn't a tool, it was a method. Combustion instead of ingestion. The Wishbone site pipes show controlled, repeated, small-scale burning, not chewing or eating. Burning tobacco breaks down a portion of its nicotine and delivers what remains through the lungs in small, fast-absorbed doses, rather than flooding the stomach with a single, raw, concentrated amount. This is the same principle that separates a controlled fire from a wildfire. Scale and delivery determine whether something kills you or serves you. Researchers studying the residues found the pipes had been used over time, suggesting consistent, sustainable use rather than a single, desperate, or ceremonial event. Once combustion replaced ingestion as the delivery method, tobacco shifted from poison to product. That single shift in method, not a new species of plant, not a genetic adaptation, just a change in how the plant was processed, is what made everything after it possible. The second adaptation was selection, knowing which plant and which part of it to use. Wild tobacco is not one uniform, safe ingredient. Nicotine concentration varies by species, by leaf, by growing condition. Early users at sites like Wishbone weren't randomly grabbing vegetation. They were repeatedly identifying, gathering, and processing a specific plant out of a desert landscape full of others, a level of botanical precision that implies sustained observation and shared knowledge passed between people, not a single lucky guess. The third adaptation was the tool itself, the pipe. A hollowed stone bowl does two things a bare flame can't. It contains the burn in a small, repeatable space, and it controls airflow, which controls how hot and how fast the tobacco burns, and therefore how much nicotine reaches the user per breath. That is dosage control, built from stone, 12,000 years before anyone had a word for pharmacology. Put the three adaptations together, combustion over ingestion, selective gathering, and a dosing tool, and you have something remarkable. An early human population that didn't just survive a toxic plant, but domesticated the danger out of it through technique alone, with no chemistry, no writing, and no inherited precedent to work from. The human social element. Here is what the pipes don't show directly, but strongly imply. This knowledge had to be taught. A method this precise, the right plant, the right preparation, the right tool, the right way to inhale without overdosing, does not survive as a one-time accident. It survives because someone who figured it out, or learned it, showed someone else. The Wishbone site itself supports this. The pipes were found at what appears to be a communal hunting camp, used by a group, not a single isolated forager. That means this wasn't a private discovery kept by one person until they died with it. It was shared, demonstrated, repeated, passed person to person, the same way fire starting or flint knapping techniques were passed down until it became something a whole community simply knew how to do. No predator, no rival species, nothing else alive in that landscape had this capacity, the ability to take dangerous, hard-won knowledge from one mind and copy it into another, reliably, across an entire group. That is the trait that took a discovery that could have died with one risk-taker in a desert camp and turned it into a practice still alive 12,000 years later. Over the following millennia, tobacco use spread and diversified across nearly every culture in the Americas, woven into ritual, medicine, trade, and daily life, long before any European ever saw a leaf of it. Researchers continue to debate exactly how widespread early use was beyond the Wishbone site, since direct physical evidence this old is exceptionally rare, but the pattern of spread that followed is not in question. What started as a fatal risk became a refined method, then a shared skill, then a tradition that outlasted the civilization that invented it. No tolerance, no precedent. No safe instinct to fall back on, and still, through method, selection, and a willingness to teach, it became routine. 12,000 years ago, someone risked poisoning themselves to answer a question no one had asked before. Somewhere in a Utah desert, the answer is still smoking in a stone bowl, waiting to be found.